FPK, future-proof knowledge podcast, mind unlocked. With every episode we cast real talk, real tools, wisdom on the fly. Tune in, geek out, reach for the sky. FPK, future-proof knowledge podcast.
Episode 20 of the FPK podcast. We are live. I can't believe it, Jay Sean. We've hit 20 episodes. Who'd have thought when we started this little conversation that we'd hit 20 before the year was out? And here we are, number 20.
20 weeks in a row.
20 weeks in a row. Yeah, that's crazy. And we thought, look, the listeners deserve to hear more than just me and you rattling on, Jay Sean. So we decided to invite a very, very special guest, someone who I've gotten to know quite well over the last 6 months and who is an absolute gent, and someone whose yoga is inspiring me to keep my practice up. Mr. David Scullion. David, how are you doing today?
Very well. Good to hear from you. How are you doing?
Thanks. We're good. Thanks for joining us. And I suppose today's conversation is going to be very much looking at how meditation, how music, how yoga, how food, all that kind of stuff can help to help those young people and adults who maybe find regulation, self-regulation challenging, and for parents maybe with kids who can struggle as well. We want to delve into little techniques and tips that I suppose, David, you've learned over your years of becoming a master, and myself and Jay Sean's years of me pulling my hair out, Jay Sean taking my hair and making it his own longer. But I suppose, David, before we kind of delve into the nuts and bolts of it, do you want to give us a little bit about your background and how you came into yoga and meditation in the first place?
Sure, that's fine, yeah. I got into yoga in my early 20s, and it was due to back pain that I was suffering from. And I had tried all different types of things, chiropractors, osteopaths, and it just was compression in my lower back, which was causing sciatic pain. So whenever it was at its worst, I couldn't lay down to sleep. I had to sleep in a chair. And I was a surfer at the time. I had moved to Australia, and yeah, the body was just really starting to suffer, and then the mind as well, as you can imagine. And I had heard about yoga over there and that it could be beneficial, so I started to dabble on it. And I had some quite profound experiences early on, not just in yoga, but also in meditation as well. And based on those early experiences, I just became fascinated by it, and I left my career in architecture at the time to go off and study yoga full time, and never really looked back. At one stage, I was very much on the path to monasticism until I felt that calling to come back to Ireland. But yeah, that's kind of where it started for me. But I also grew up in the north of Ireland during the Troubles and lost both my parents when I was young, and my family was separated as well. So there was some early childhood trauma, and those things started to catch up with me, both physically and mentally, in my early 20s. And I just came across yoga and meditation, and was lucky enough to find some incredible teachers. And yeah, it's been a huge part of my life and a big part of my work now as well. And that's kind of what got me into it.
And I'm sure in your early 20s, when you're on a path to, building a career which could have brought you, I suppose, a lot of financial rewards, and maybe, if things went really, really well, you could, become quite a renowned architect. And to kind of turn and go completely away from that, was it an easy decision to make for you, or was it a difficult one?
It wasn't, I wouldn't say that it was easy, but it also happened over time. It was over a process of years. It just got to the stage where, through the yoga as well and through the meditation and the like, it kind of took me around the world. I traveled a lot, so I started traveling to South America, started studying with shamans, as well as spending time in the East, studying with people. And it became more and more challenging to sit in an office for me. So it just became more difficult to do. And like I said, I was being drawn in another direction, and I just followed my intuition. The intuition is something that I noticed that grew the more that I practiced these things. So it became just quite obvious. I don't know how much of a say I actually had on it, to be honest, but it's the path that I found myself on, and I'm grateful for it. It definitely has come with its challenges as well, leaving that security and that stability of a good job, and also moving around the world. And yeah, it definitely comes with its challenges, but it's also its own great reward. And when you see the benefit of the people, when you share what you've been practicing and what you've learned, and you can see how it's helping other people, that's a great feeling, and very inspiring for me.
Yeah. And do you know, I'm fascinated by, you kind of indicating that you were able to, I suppose, process your own trauma through that whole process, because lots of people now will go and they'll take antidepressants and they'll take anti-anxiety medication, and they'll go and see a counselor, or they'll go and see a therapist, or so there'll be this Western way to manage trauma, which works for people. There's fantastic therapists and coaches and counselors out there doing fantastic work, but I think sometimes we forget that we are more than just a mind. And did you find that, anyone who works in this field will know that back pain can, be very much linked to trauma, can be very much linked to stress, all that kind of stuff. Do you think that's what was happening for you? That all that stuff that you went through when you were younger, kind of, it came out in that back pain, which kind of was letting you know, no, we got to deal with this, and this is the way you can try dealing with it.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. The body keeps a record of everything that happens, really. Everything that you experience in the mind, it leaves an equal trace on the body. So the body can start to solidify, and problems can start to occur, especially if there is long periods of stress and trauma and things like this. It can accumulate in different ways. In the traditions they would talk about knots, like energetic knots or ties in the body, and the practices can help in the process of unraveling. You could talk about it on the level of energy as well. You want a smooth energetic flow throughout your system, and again, these practices are designed to allow you to do that. For me, it was a combination of different things. I was a martial artist as well whenever I was younger, and my body took a fair pounding as well. So it was a combination of physical things, and then working on a farm when I was young, and it all adds up. But it was definitely, the more I got into the practices, the more I realized the layers of the mind and the body, and the subtlety of how you accumulate your experiences. So definitely, in my experience, what I went through in the past, the difficulties in the past, it definitely started to express itself physically in my body, especially when I went to doctors and therapists to try to figure out what was going on. My body was starting to crash, really. The systems were starting to struggle. And when I tried to turn to I guess, regular medicine, it wasn't really bringing up the answers. And it was through the process of these practices that I started the journey of healing, I guess, and bringing stability and resilience back into my system, into my nervous system, into my body, and into my mind. So it definitely had an effect.
Was there one pivotal moment that you can think back to and go, that was the moment I went, holy shit, this is actually helping me?
Yeah, there was one profound moment. I spent a lot of time on Vipassana meditations, which is a Theravada tradition, a Buddhist tradition. They have 10-day silent retreats, and you train pretty much as a monk or a nun. You're sitting for, I can't remember if it's 13 or 14 hours a day, silent meditation. It's pretty full on, but necessary when you go through the process of it. And one of the techniques within that tradition is a technique called dhatana, which means strong determination. So in that tradition, whenever you're training to meditate, you're being trained to sit still and to try not to react to the activity of the mind and the body. Whenever anybody sits down to try to meditate for an hour at a time without moving, you soon realize how difficult it is, and all of the pains in the body, especially if the body's not used to formal meditation. It is a challenge, but as you progress along, you're encouraged to start to be aware of what it is that's causing you to want to move, or you could kind of say to run away from the experience that you're having. And so during this first Vipassana retreat, I think I was on day 7, or maybe 7 or 8. And I'm sitting in my place and my body is absolutely killing me. My hips feel like somebody's sticking knives into them. And I'm trying, I have that hard head. I was more like that back then. I was like, I'm going to get good at this, you know? So I was not reacting, and you really feel the sensations of the body. You feel the energy, the feeling of the body, the sensations. But also in the technique, it's teaching you to rest your conscious awareness on the feeling of the body, and you do a type of body scan rising up and down the body. And I noticed this very profound thing happened whenever I rest my consciousness, my awareness on that particular area of the body, which was from the hips, but at this time it was really in that sore point in my spine. And I just felt it. I just kept my mind on it, and you're feeling it with a sense of equanimity. You're training your mind to be equanimous, to not react to the sensations that are happening. And something very profound can happen when you rest your awareness on the feeling of the body and not react to it. My spine actually adjusted itself and the pain went away. So I had this very profound moment where there was an energetic release in my back, and the energy started to flow through my body. The pain started to go away, and it was hugely profound, in and of the sense that when you rest your awareness on the body without reaction, where it's calm, it's balanced, you're just observing your experience, that it has this purifying effect. It has this healing effect, you could even say. And that's why in that tradition there's such an emphasis on paying attention to the feeling, the sensations of the body, because everything that arises in the mind from moment to moment, the meditator, when they're trained and they pay enough attention, it also has a link to the feeling of the body, the sensations of the body. I mean, you could look at this in a very gross level, where when anxiety or fear comes into the mind, people often talk about having feelings of sensations in their stomach or butterflies in their stomach. So there's a mental reaction, but there's also a physical trace. And that link between the mind and the body is a very important one for the meditator. And for me to have that healing experience, and I mean, my back actually like had a kind of mini chiropractic adjustment just from paying attention to it, that it was hugely profound for me, and I became so fascinated in the power of this technique and everything that came with it. So that's one moment that was a big aha moment for me.
Yeah, that's really, really powerful. And I think if we carry this into, I suppose, the realm of looking at young people and looking at neurodiverse young people, like they're going every day potentially to an institution that is trying to teach them, but not necessarily teaching them in a way that works for them. And for a lot of neurodiverse people, as Jay Sean, we've spoken a lot about a hell of a lot. The society we have is not particularly set up to support neurodiverse young people, because some of the most in touch with their body and mind are neurodiverse young people, especially those with autism. And Jason, you'll be able to speak more to this than me, but like that connection is so important, but yet we live in a society that kind of separates them, and your head is your head, and that's logic things out. So CBT works really, really well for a lot of people, is terrible for other people, because there isn't that connection between the mind and the body. Now, there is the behavior side of things, but it's not the energetic side of things. And where I see it happen is with the young people who maybe are getting stressed because they think they should be doing something different, but they all get that physical response. So any young person I work with, and I say, right, when you're anxious, what happens? And they will usually go, my stomach is in knots, my heart is really heavy or beating really fast, or my jaw gets really tight, or my head feels like it's going to explode. And like, they're not sitting there going, okay, I think I want to feel butterflies in my tummy, I want to feel a heaviness in my heart. And imagine trying to, or having to go into school. I'm not saying all schools now, but for those who struggle in school, go into a school or an environment where you're feeling like that every single day. In fact, you're feeling like that before you even step into the building, as soon as you wake up in the morning. Jay Sean, like, I want you to come in here and talk about that body-mind experience for you. Like, when you were a kid in school, first and foremost, like, were you even aware of the body and mind connection?
Not at all. Hell, I'm still not aware of it. I think we're asking all the wrong questions here. Let's back up a second. So, David, you mentioned that you used to surf, and nobody used to surf. If you surf, and you still surf, I'm sure. What I want to know, and I'll get back to your question, Alan, but so since you've gotten into the yoga and the mindfulness and the grounding of yourself, me as a fellow surfer, what improvements did you find in the water based off from the yoga that you've gotten into, and how did that help your performance in the waves? That's the most important question I have.
Okay.
Because I'm about 400 yards from the beach right now.
Okay.
I want to know.
Well, there's the obvious, the flexibility. If you look at the likes of Kelly Slater, he and Mick Fanning, they were both big into their yoga. I'd say any professional surfer now is definitely picking up on all of these things, but just the flexibility, the safety when you end up in all different types of situations and your body gets contorted in every shape when you wipe out and come off. So the ability to to be pliable in any sport. I also work with martial artists, so that ability to recover and be pliable is hugely important. Through yoga, you'll understand the limitations of your body. You'll have a really clear understanding of what you're capable of physically, that you may be a little bit blinded to without that introspection, that bodily awareness. The breathing as well, trying to breathe while you're laying on a surfboard. So the breathing techniques traditionally that would be called pranayama helps to increase your energy, your stamina, your focus, your ability to even hold your breath. I had a couple of really bad wipeouts in Australia in big waves surfing, and the ability to stay calm under pressure when you're held underneath the water was something that definitely helped me. It maybe even saved my life once or twice. So I think just having that, when you start to practice yoga and meditation, you can become more sensitive and kind of more attuned. And especially when you're in the ocean, even that in and of itself kind of brings that sensitivity. It's something that surfers kind of get addicted to, the experience of being in the water and being at one with water. So there's many things, but there's the obvious. But I think, that's kind of those are the main ones. Not to ramble on. I mean, I'm stopping myself from from going down a rabbit hole here, but yeah.
No, that's excellent.
This is the surfing podcast.
Yeah, you need another podcast for this one maybe.
Well, I mean, taking that information that you just shared and thinking about Alan's question when I was in school. So in 2 of the years that I was in school, I was on the surf team. And there's one thing I can definitely remember from back then. Surf team, we met at Huntington Beach every morning, 5:30 a.m. We'd surf till 6:30, 7 o'clock, and then we'd go to school and we'd start second period. The one thing that I truly found, and I'm going to use surfing and tie it into the whole conversation, is prior to being in the surfing class, getting up, going to school, sitting in first period was always hard. It was difficult, just still waking up, still trying to say hi to your friends because you just got to school. You see the teacher is still trying to get their day ready and they're not quite there. That was noticeable. It wasn't noticeable until after I joined the surf team. Once I joined the surf team, I noticed I'd come back to school. I'd sit in second period. And like you said, sitting out there, even if you're not catching a wave, that silence and that movement of the ocean while you're on your board and just the peacefulness, that moment of zen you have, really relaxed the mind and was kind of like how I compare my drinking coffee today. I drink coffee, it opens my mind and it starts my day. Sitting on that water started my day. And when I got to school, which was my second period, but technically my first period at school, I was so much more relaxed. I was so much more able to take what the teacher was giving to me. And just, I'd still be sore from paddling, but none of that mattered because I was relaxed because I had that time just to have to myself on the water. So when I think about Alan's question, I never really thought about it until I started surfing. And afterwards, there was often times where being in school, whether in sports or just in like an English class, I had a couple good teachers throughout the years that some of them, they'd leave the lights off for the first 5 minutes of class. They'd leave the lights off, they talk to us softly, go over what we were going to be doing that day, hand out the paperwork, and then the lights would come on. And that was just kind of a way to get everybody's mind at ease. So I did face some of that, but I was not self-aware enough to understand the things that I understand now. Now looking back, obviously I can see the different aspects of it. But at the time, I was too young and dumb to even care. But I did notice the way I would feel after school and going to school and in school, different times of the day based off from how I was feeling and whether I was grounded or not. And so yeah, I just rambling again. I step in, Alan, stop me.
Yeah, no,
Save
no,
me.
absolutely not. But you're hitting the nail on the head, and I think, so when I'm working with students who are maybe struggling and find it difficult to regulate themselves, the very first thing I do is a grounding. So how to get yourself connected to the ground, and that could be on the first floor. Because I've had people go, yeah, but we're on the first or second floor, Alan. But that doesn't matter. You can connect to the process of grounding. For me, is a connection to a deeper self, and getting everything slowed down, your whole nervous system slowed down, so that you can be calmer. And interestingly enough, Jay Sean, you were talking about doing that before school. I was working with a young, I suppose, I don't like using the word elite athlete, because at a young age, do you know what I mean? What's elite? But someone who's on a trajectory to become potentially an international in basketball, and he's getting in trouble in school. And the days he started to go training in the school beforehand, before school starts, and the school reported that the days he goes training, which I think is 2 or 3 days, depending week by week, he is so much more amenable. He's less distracted, less troublesome in the classroom on the days that he is connected to the process. So it's not that he's calming himself, like he's going and he's playing basketball and he's doing shuttle runs, but he's in his flow. And and David, you know this as well, like working with athletes, they'll all talk about being in flow. It's one of the main elements of sports psychology, is being in flow, where you're not even thinking about it, you're just doing it. And when he's in that flow, he's going into the classroom and he's been so much more better able to manage. And I think, and this is why, one of the main reasons I wanted to kind of, David, have you on, was to start to look at, so there might be parents listening who their kids are not into sport, who couldn't meditate for 1 minute, never mind 10 minutes in the morning. So is there any kind of little techniques for those parents that they could try and implement with their kids to try and empower them to be able to manage their own stress systems as they're getting up and going into school in the morning?
Yeah, definitely. The movement could be a crucial factor, especially whenever you're working with children, and especially if you're working with neurodivergent children. The movement beforehand and just being able to get that energy moving is of a great benefit. It's very difficult even for anyone to sit down and meditate, especially if they haven't really have too much experience on it. And what is very beneficial is whenever someone goes through a yoga practice, even if it's 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes long, you put yourself in a situation where it's a lot easier to sit down and pay attention than if you were to try to just sit down and be calm. I would say as well, what's very interesting, through the teachings of yoga, while you're practicing the physical aspects of yoga, again, drawing from the meditative traditions, as you're experiencing the feeling of the body, you'll go into certain postures and you're going to come against resistance within your body. It could be pain, it could be an injury, it could be anything. There's going to be strong sensations that are going to come up, and likely unpleasant. And how an individual approaches that experience is part of the meditative training, to lean into the experience, to not try to fight it, but to just sit with it at a place where you can maintain that sense of equanimity. That's a process of training the body and the mind to do that. That's why these things are called a practice. You talk about practicing meditation, practicing yoga. You're accumulating skills that then stand by you in your daily life. But say an individual is experiencing stress or anxiety, this ability to feel the body, to feel into the body. It is grounding in and of itself, but to pay attention to those unpleasant sensations within the body and to just sit with them without judgment. And again, this is something you would practice, that if you meet these sensations within the body and you don't react, and you're not trying to struggle to try to change, to make your experience in that moment different, if you just allow it and even give it more space, is something that I would suggest, that by accepting it, by allowing it to be there, very quickly it can change in a few conscious breaths. Whereas if you try to fight it and force yourself to be in a different state, you can be adding to the problems, to the accumulation of this type of energy, this type of experience. And that again is a key element within the practices. So the yoga is a great way for, or movement, it could be dance, it could be conscious dance, depending, not everybody's into yoga. So a conscious movement, I would say, is a great thing to do, and it's also something that you can do with the parents. I mean, I worked in a studio in Dublin and ran a course through the studio where there was a group of neurodivergent children came in, all different backgrounds, and each one of them had a care. And the one condition was that the carers did the practice as well. And the first day they came and everybody was, kind of like, what's going on, everything like this. And I just taught them in the way that I would teach anyone, just but slower, maybe more adjustments depending on the child. And they loved it, because when they came back the next week, it went over a series of weeks, this course. The children were so happy to be back doing it. They really connected with it. And they understood what it was that I was saying about paying attention to the feeling of the body. And you very quickly experience the benefits of the practices. But what was most noteworthy to me was how happy that the carers were, that they were as excited to come back and do it for themselves. And I think they need it as much, and the parents need it as much. It is something that they could do together. So yeah, there's many elements to it, but
Yeah, I really like that idea of movement, because one of the challenges a lot of neurodiverse kids will experience is not being able to sit down. And some parents will go, right, let's try this meditation. You're going to sit down and you're just going to not move, and you might as well just pour gasoline and just go, whoom, there you go, right? So for any parents who have a child like that, getting up and movement and dance, I love that. It is amazing if you guys were to start your day in a conscious way of having a dance in the kitchen in the morning. That might help the energy begin to flow more effectively for your child. And it's fun. Imagine starting your day with fun instead of going, right, I'm going to start you to get you ready to be quiet and try and behave for the next 6 hours in this other place, so that I'm not getting a phone call from the school going, yep, he's gone crazy again. So I love that. So then the bringing the connection between the parent and the child for the yoga. And it's amazing. You're right. I always find when you do things for the children, the parents get so much benefit out of it, and it gives them almost a permission. Oh, so I can do this yoga. I can do this this dancing, because it's helping my child. That's it. That's why I'm doing it.
And it's something that I tell students all the time, no matter what background they come from, is to try not to make a chore of your practices, your yoga, your meditation. When people add it on as another thing on their list to do, you can take the joy out of it straight away before you even start. But if you think about it in the sense of that you're taking this time, even if it is 10, 15 minutes, you're taking this time for yourself to stop. You're stopping this inertia of life, the obligations, the energy, all the things, the experiences that are happening to you, it can really start to accumulate. And when it snowballs and people go into stress and into panic and things like that, the practices allow you to take that time daily, maybe a few times a week, where you're just sitting and you're paying attention to this. And you will see if someone is stressed and they sit down to meditate or to do yoga, they will become very acutely aware of how they're feeling in their body. And by just doing these practices, very quickly you can start to kind of bring the balance down, this kind of like base level of, because it's a type of resilience that you're building as well, you know, to draw from Stoicism. You're accumulating a resilience to your experience in life. The difficulties of life in a day are going to be there, but the more you take that time to just bring that level down, to slow down your heart rate, slow down your nervous system, to feel into your body, pay attention to your breath. Whenever the challenges come, you're going to be more aware of how you're feeling, and it gives you the ability to then be aware and calmly allow it to come down. Whereas for people that are not mindful, something happens and it can carry them for days, weeks, even years at a time.
Yeah. So would you be one that's in support of, say, even body scans for young people to help them go through just to start to feel the different parts of their body, so that's getting them to tune into that physical side of things?
I think it would be dependent on the individual, because like you said in the beginning, someone with Asperger's, let's say, some children are a little bit more sensitive and more open to energies, even spirits. They see things. They're a lot more lucid in their experience in the mind. So you kind of have to be aware and careful of the techniques that you're given to particular children, because the last thing that you want to do is to unhinge an individual, where through meditation or, you know, particular, like say, for example, non-dual practices could be problematic. So even feeling...
Describe what non-dual practices are.
Well, non-dual practices would be meditation techniques where you're paying attention to the lack of sense of self, this sense of like that consciousness is just open, and that there is no I there, there is no person there. These are non-dual practices. You're sitting back and being trained to have this very open experience, and that can be extremely liberating and very profound experience. But for certain individuals, it may not be beneficial, because, like I said, some children are much more lucid in their experience anyway. So you just have to be mindful of the experience that the child is having. For some children, doing the body scan is fine, but deep introspective scanning may not be necessary. It can be just feeling how the stomach feels, feeling how the shoulders feel. You know, it can be more on a superficial level, and even that is sufficient. You know, not everybody's going for the liberated non-duality state of complete emptiness. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
What? I'm looking for that at the moment.
Because even the people that do seek it out, when that experience comes, sometimes they can have difficulty integrating it. It can be very scary for people. But so yeah, it's just to be mindful of who it is that you're speaking with them.
Yes, and if people have experienced physical trauma, we have to be very kind of careful around that kind of stuff. Jason, I want to bring you in, and for your son, what are some of the calming techniques or preparatory techniques that you guys use to help him regulate himself?
With my son, pressure, deep pressure, and weighted blankets work really well for him. If he's going through a tantrum, just coming up and bear hugging him will get him to calm down. And I think that also bringing him in close to your chest. His heart and his breathing will be like really fast, where mine will be a lot slower. So I bring him in with that deep hug or just compression, and it'll get him to calm down, and he'll start to match my same rhythm. And then if he's just hanging out or something like that, a weighted blanket, or lots of times when he's getting stressed, he'll come grab us and he'll have us sit on him. He'll sit on the couch and he'll pull us down, and he'll just want us to sit on his lap and lean all the way back against him to where he's completely smashed and you can't see him. There's just hands and feet. So for my son, that's kind of where we lean to, and is deep pressure and weighted blankets, mainly because he's nonverbal and I don't know what else he's requesting. So that's what we figured works, and that's what we stick with. I'm sure if he can tell us, he might have some other requests, but for now he gets deep pressure.
I just have this image of, Dad, get off me. Stop sitting on me. But what you do bring up, though, is something that actually I picked up on what David said earlier on, is you as the parent or you as the carer. And we can help other people de-escalate. So I would always say to parents, if I'm working with the grounding with them, I'll say to them, if your child is struggling to get grounded, as long as you are grounded, you can start to get your child grounded. So you go through the process of grounding, and then you can just place your hands on the shoulder of your child, and that can help them start to get a bit more de-stressed and calmer. It's almost like the weighted blanket idea. But David, I'm wondering, is that something that you would kind of suggest is almost like, let's look at ourselves first and foremost, and how we are within ourselves? Is our practice as important to helping our children as anything else, or is that not how you would operate at all?
Yeah, well, I think it's hugely beneficial for the parent, just even for themselves. This stuff is good for anybody, more or less. But yeah, just children are very sensitive to the environment around them and to the people around them. I remember when I was young, I was acutely aware of how people felt around me, and I would try to navigate the experience to try to fit in, to adapt to how they were feeling. So, I feel that children are very tuned in, and if the parent or the carer has these practices where they are in a more grounded, calm, happier state, then it's going to, of course, be beneficial to the environment that they and the children are in. So I think it's hugely beneficial for them to do.
Very good. And is there, I know music is a very important element in the work that you do, but also in your life. And before we went live, we were having a conversation around your experience of other people experiencing the music that you bring them through. So talk to us a little bit about the soothing aspects of music that you've experienced in the work that you're doing.
Yeah, the music was a big part of, during my training with yoga, I spent a lot of time in Australia with bhakti yogis. Bhakti yogis are devotional yogis, so they love to sing. They sing to the divine, to the goddess, to nature, and it's something that's actually quite common throughout the world. In my travels and my training, all the traditions that I came in contact with and studied for a while, and these types of things, music was a key element in all of them, and all of them had prayers to the divine, to the goddess, to nature. A lot of them were prayers to the mountains, to the rivers, to their environment. It was something that I noticed. And for me, yeah, when you are in that environment and you're singing these songs, even when you don't know, in the early days I didn't really know what it was that I was singing, but I was just happy to be there. But when you're in that energy and you're connecting, there's one thing in listening to music, but when you're actually creating it yourself, when you're singing along, when it's actually vibrating through you, I feel that it has a very positive effect on the body as well. So just sitting with these other yogis and chanting and singing, for me, the feeling again, it's an exertion of energy, and you're singing for hours and hours at a time. And by the time you finish, you're completely exhausted. Often afterwards, there would be communal dining together, eating, sharing, and laughing. And it really allowed, I feel, looking back at it, it allowed everybody to channel that energy that's in them and get it out, it give it focus, and it allowed them to expel this energy and the feeling of calm. And in comparison to when we were talking about surfing as well, it had a similar effect. You just were in a better state to pay attention to your partner, to listen, to read a book, to learn. That's how I learned to become a musician. I wasn't trained as a musician whenever I was young. When I was at school, I struggled with dyslexia. I couldn't read very well at all. I trained to read actually in my 20s, to read properly through a program that was based on neuroplasticity, to rewire the brain. And I would attribute a lot of the practices that I have done and that I continue to do in my ability to learn to play music and to learn to sing. And it was something that I was able to learn to do quite quickly when I talk to other musicians. It's something that I think these practices for someone with dyslexia, somebody that struggled to learn, it helped me to learn actually calm, in a more calm state and much more quickly. And it's a great gift, for me. If I teach a yoga class or I do a workshop, or sometimes I go to festivals and things like this, and I would teach pranayama, the breathing techniques, the yoga, the guided meditation, but I always finish with the music, because people, again, they get that energy out, they open up, they're in a calm state, they're in a very open and sensitive state, that they're in this perfect position to receive the vibrations of the music. And whenever the vibrations of the music are coming from a place, a meditative place, or a place of the heart, when you're singing the songs from the heart, you're singing to nature, you're singing to life, when there is this meaning behind it, it has this very powerful effect on people after they do their yoga practice. Often people will go on journeys, they'll come back after it and tell you, oh, I saw my grandmother, I saw my grandfather, I traveled over here and went to the jungle. And so for me, it's fascinating to hear the experiences that the people have by listening to the music. But I think depending on the type of music, it carries a certain vibration. And again, young people, children, I feel, are very sensitive to that, and they connect with it very easily. And yeah, it has a joyous element to it. It's a kind of celebratory element of it too, not just this like, oh, I want to use this music to calm people down. And it's about connecting to this vitality, to this potency that we all carry, this primordial energy of creation, and then that kind of flows forth into your learning and into your art and into your expression. That's really what I feel through the practices, the yoga, the meditation, the music. As you're tapping in, you're coming back to yourself, and you're taking the time to come back to yourself, and then that starts to come forward in your life.
Yeah, that's fascinating. do you know, I don't know if I've given this example before, but I remember the most recent experience. Like, I love music, and I love going to music. I used to love playing music. I just don't do it really anymore. And myself and Jason have definitely spoken about this. But I remember going to see Tool, which are not, it's not exactly yoga music, but Tool would be one of my favorite bands. But I went with a friend of mine, and there was no alcohol involved or anything. But during one of the really strong instrumental um, songs, I left my body. That's the only way I could describe it. I left my body and I was hovering above the whole arena. And I could see myself settling down, and I was just being held on a wave of vibration on that music. And anyone I tell that story to, and I don't tell many people because most people go, how many drugs did you take? But
Some good
I honestly,
LSD.
honestly, I hadn't. I was driving, so I wasn't. But it was the most profound musical experience I've had in that respect, where I've been pulled. Like, I've got very emotional at music, and I've really connected with music in the past. But that there was something about that was like no other experience that I've ever had, and it was just phenomenal. And the following time I went to see them, I was like, I wonder will I get the same experience? And I didn't, but that's okay. So I was kind of chasing that experience, but I know it's not going to be like that. And Jason, I know for you, music is a big thing as well, and you play your music. Like, do you does what David said there resonate with you in terms of the vibration and everything like that? And does it help you get yourself grounded, and or is it just something that allows you to switch off from the day-to-day stress?
I'm a very hyperactive person, so I'm not a meditator in the sense of sitting still and meditating, and music is kind of my meditation. It helps me just kind of break away from my thoughts, and it also helps me like focus it. But I can't, it can't just be listening to music. I got to feel it. So it's got to be something where I can crank it up and actually feel it. The bass of it, or just I have to feel it. There can be like literally no vocals, no harmony, no anything. It can just be a rhythm of a beat of someone tapping their finger in like a rhythm. It just something that I can feel. As long as I can feel it, it's a distraction for me and it helps me focus. But without music, I think I'd probably be a emotional wreck, because I mean, it's in everything I do. And I guess for me, it's not just music; it's the process of everything. Everything to me is a process. Like the simplest thing, going to the refrigerator and getting something out of the refrigerator. To me, there's a certain process. The way I grab the handle on the refrigerator, the way I open it, where I position it, everything I do. If I'm going to the bathroom, if I'm getting in my truck, everything in my head is a step by step. I just slow everything down, and music helps me do that. Everything goes to like the to a certain beat in my head, and it's no matter what I'm doing. I'm working on the computer, if I'm walking down the street, the way I hold my fingers. When I was in the military, you never held your f fingers out straight. You always, when you walk, you had them in a certain position. Just every aspect of what my body's doing, I have to know, and it's maybe I overthink it, but that's the way I use my meditation to keep myself focused, is by making sure everything has a process, even the simplest task, putting on my shoes. I can crawl out of bed any day of the week, anywhere I'm at, and my feet will land in my shoes because it's a routine that never changes. Where I place them, how I get up, how I take my first, like, I mean, everything is a process. And if I don't follow and think step by step, then I'll just be disorganized for the rest of the day. I don't know. That's my meditation, and that's
Yeah.
and the music is strongly tied into that because that's what keeps the beat of my focus on each of those tasks going.
Yeah, and I suppose it does link into, and for any listeners out there who haven't come across it, the Howard Gardner's multiple intelligences. So he talks about there's been a range of different intelligences, like musical intelligence, like body kinesthetic. So those who need that tactile movement to actually to learn, to the naturalistic intelligence where you need to be in nature. You're going to be able to consume knowledge and information so much easier if you've got plants or if you're out walking or whatever it might be. Like, there's all these different things, and we know this. Like, this has been around for quite, I know not in world terms quite a long time, but in terms of lifetime, it's been around quite a while. And yet what we still try and do is harness kids to sit down, be quiet, and listen to what you're being taught, and that's how you're going to learn. And it doesn't always work like that, as most people we speak to on this podcast will say the same thing. But we got to bring this to a close, and David, thank you so much for coming on. I know we've been trying to get this over the line for a few weeks, but you've been exceptionally busy and moving country and the whole lot. But where can people go to find out more information? How can they access your content? And any final thoughts you want to give to the audience?
Sure, no problem. If anybody wants to get in contact with me or practice yoga or meditation or listen to some of the music that I have a online yoga platform, and it's davidscullion.com, SCULLION.com. Should be easy enough to find. Or if people contact me on Instagram, I get a lot of people messaging me on that and with questions. So it's also a good place. Those are probably the two main places. I'll be happy to speak with anybody and assist them in any way I can.
And I can vouch for the quality and the level of David's online yoga practice videos. They are, I think I said it, he's probably sick of me saying it, but I've said it to you, David, and a number of times, but it's the closest I've ever come to having an online yoga practice feel like I'm actually in the room with the teacher. And I've tried lots of different yoga practices on YouTube and stuff like that, but yours is the one, is definitely the one that felt more like a proper yoga class. And I don't do it as regularly as I would like to because of time, but knowing I can tap into it and do it when I want to do it is definitely a really, really fantastic thing. So people, please do go check out David's website. We will link it below as well. And thanks so much for coming on, David. Jason, have you any final thoughts for us before we wrap up?
Yeah, I've got one. So I watched a movie that I absolutely love for like the third or fourth time, and it actually fits this perfect closing statement. So I was watching Karate Kid, not the newest one, almost the newest one, the one with Jaden Smith and Jackie Chan. So Jackie Chan tells Jaden Smith something in this thing that I think applies to this. He had him taking his jacket off, jacket on, jacket off, and the kid got mad. Oh, why am I doing this? I'm tired of doing this. And he said, stop, let me show you. Jacket off, and he threw a punch and it blocked the punch. And Jackie Chan told him, he said, look, everything is karate. In the same aspect of that, everything is meditation, everything is grounding, everything is yoga. If you think of everything you do, put purpose behind every task you do, whether it's physical, emotional, speaking, whatever the task is, put thought and care behind it, and it will be controlled and it'll keep you grounded.
I like that. I like that a lot. My final thought is just go check out davidscullion.com. It is well worth signing up and taking part. And, you know, let's just take the pressure off ourselves. None of us are going to be a yogi master, a meditation master after giving it a go. But if we stick with something, and maybe we will have something similar happen to what David experienced when he felt the decompression in his back, that we all might get that release of energy that we need just to give us that sense of flow. Right, number 20 was a good one. Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody, and we will be back next week with the Future Proof Knowledge podcast.
FPK, Future Proof Knowledge Podcast. Mind unlocked. With every episode we cast real talk, real tools, wisdom on the fly. Tune in, geek out, reach for the sky. FPK, Future Proof Knowledge Podcast.
Too much